Hi, I'm Lesley from Drake Music Scotland. Now, one of the things I do a lot of with Drake Music is group music making projects, so often band projects, where we're working with a group of young people or adults to get them to be able to perform musically together. Generally, when we start these projects, the people who are taking part have either got very little or no musical experience whatsoever. So what we're trying to do is make sure in this first instance we're giving people a really positive musical experience where they can find a sense of achievement, a sense of pride, and a bit of excitement about what they might be able to do in the future as well. So when we go into a group, the first thing I'm going to do is make a bit of an assessment about people's abilities. And we're going to find that there's a big mix. So, some people are maybe really cognitively able, but not so physically able, or maybe some people have just got a real aptitude for music. And that's okay, because it's possible for everybody to play, and it's possible for everybody to play together. It's just a matter of me or whoever's in my position finding the right path for each individual to be able to engage in that sort of music making activity. And there will be a path for everybody. One of the guiding principles that I work by is that everybody can play music if they want to. And ideally everybody wants to. So first things first, we're going to have a look at what instruments we can use. And this is often limited by the setting that you're working in. So if I'm working in a school, some of you might be class teachers, it's going to depend on what you've got at your disposal there. But the bottom line is if it makes a sound, as far as I'm concerned, it can be considered a musical instrument. And even if we don't have any other things, we have ourselves at our disposal. So we have our body, and we can make lots of sound with that. We've got our voice. We've got probably tables and chairs that we can use percussively. There are options there, even if you have things that you don't consider to be instruments. There are also a lot of technology instruments. So a lot of schools these days have iPads, which are great. There's some really fantastic music making apps for those. GarageBand and ThumbJam are the two that I go to most often. If you have a look at the Drake Music website, there'll be lots of resources on how to use those. Other technology instruments are, for example, Skoog. It sort of connects to a computer or an iPad, and each of these sort of squishy buttons makes a sound. Or sound beams, switches, things like that. And obviously there's then our more traditional instruments, keyboards, guitars, bass guitars, drums even. So hopefully you'll have some of those things available to you. So with a group, after we've done sort of introductions, and maybe we've played a musical game or something like that just to get us warmed up, the first thing to do is really to get people choosing an instrument. You'll find that everybody has a preference. And sometimes they get their preference and sometimes they don't. But there's normally something that can be worked out. I also find that sometimes people, for example, might really want to play guitar, but they're scared it's going to be hard. So there's something to be done about making a safe space for people to try things as well. And you might find as well that people express a preference for an instrument that you don't think will work for them. So for example, somebody might really, really want to play guitar, but actually they don't have great dexterity. And that's okay, because instruments are adaptable. And a guitar is a really good sort of example of an adaptable instrument. So over here I've got my sort of 6-string guitar. That's kind of how we know and love a guitar. It's pretty standard, really. But over on this side I have another guitar. And this guitar is a little bit different. So you might be able to see this guitar actually only has 4 strings. So I've taken off the bottom and the top string, and there's a video about how to set up your guitar like this. And what I've done is this is also not in a standard tuning. This is tuned A, E, A, this one. Sounds like this. So it's a nice consonant chord, it's an easy sound. And you can strum away and it sounds nice. It doesn't involve any of this hand. But if we want to start playing different notes, then all we have to do on this guitar set up like this is put a finger down. And we get nice chords. And it eliminates the need for any sort of dexterity, really, with the left hand. And if we wanted, we could take all but one string off. There is no need to have 4 strings on this guitar. It's about finding the right path for the individual to be able to make the music that they want to make, to be able to become the musician that they want to become, not the musician that I think they should become. You know, and there's lots of other ways to play guitar as well. You don't have to hold it like this. You can set it on your lap and play it like this and have your hand on top. It can even be a 2-person instrument with 1 person taking care of this and 1 person taking care of the strumming. So that's just to say that things don't have to be the way that we're used to them being. I read an interview with someone recently, and I can't remember who it was, but they said a thing that really sort of has stuck with me. And they said, techniques are just traditions. And I really believe that. Just because something's been done one way for 100 years doesn't mean that that's the way that we have to do it now. And if someone being able to access playing the guitar or not is the difference between playing it differently or playing it the standard way, I think it's perfectly fine for them to be playing it differently. So that also brings me nicely onto notation systems. You're probably aware of standard notation for definite. It's those dots on the lines on a stave. There's also tab, which is like numbers on lines, and that relates to fretted instruments like guitars or bass guitars. And the one that I really like using with groups, because it's super flexible and adaptable to every instrument, is the Figurenotes. So you probably saw when I had the guitar up that along the top I've got these coloured stickers. I'm starting down here at yellow, green, red, brown, grey, so on. And each of these corresponds to a note. So you can maybe see over here I've also got them on this keyboard. And it means that instead of saying to somebody, can you play me a C? And them going, I don't know what a C is, and having a negative response there, it means I can say to everybody in the group, can you find me a red on your instrument? And for most people that's going to be fairly straightforward. They can look at their instrument, they can see a red sticker, and they can put their finger down and they can play it. And that means I've got everybody playing the same note together, and that's a really great place to start. Nice thing about iPad is ThumbJam, the app that I mentioned before, has Figurenotes built in. GarageBand doesn't. It's a bit annoying, so what I did for that is I made this sort of a little Velcro elastic band, little Figurenotes Velcro stickers that can put around the top of an iPad so that someone's got that notation available to them there as well. Right, now if that all sounds good, head on over to the next video. We're going to talk about how to actually get people playing together.